Hi, I'm Dan. Welcome to Cafe Jumpstart. I've had businesses for over 25 years. I've had a coffee roasting business, a coffee van, a mobile van, and a successful cafe. In that time, I've learned what works and what doesn't work. And in this course, I'm going to show you all those things that I've learned over the years. I'm going to show you how to find a location. I'm going to show you how to build a menu. I'm going to show you how to systematize and much more. It's going to be a lot of work, but at the end of it, you'll know how to start, own, and operate your very own successful coffee business. Let's get stuck into it. In Gary Halbert's book, The Boron Letters, he talks about how he had a class of would-be entrepreneurs and he was asking them what the biggest competitive advantage would be to having a business. And he used the example of a burger stand and he said, what would be my number one competitive advantage against all my other competition of having a burger stand? And some said better tasting beef patties, better tasting buns, some said better marketing, better advertising, some said a great location. He said, none of that matters. The biggest competitive advantage I could have would be a starving crowd. A hungry crowd. Have you ever had a subpar coffee at a festival or a market because you really wanted a coffee and there was no other competition around anywhere? Now, like I said, competition's not always a bad thing, but when you've got a starving crowd at your front doorstep, you can't go wrong. So your task for today, is to find out the numbers. So you need about 2,000 people to service in your 5-kilometre area of having your cafe. So say your area's got 20,000 people and there's a few other cafes, 5 other cafes there, so it's going to give you 2,000 people each. You're going to need at least 2,000 people. I've given you all examples about how I come up with those numbers. It's all in the show notes about how I came about with 2,000 people. But you trust me in that you're going to need about 2,000 people. And if you're the only cafe in town and the town only has 2,000 people, then you should be off to a good start. And that's going to vary a bit depending if you're opposite a train station or if you're opposite a university or a business district or industrial estate. So it really depends on where you are, but you're going to need a foot traffic of about 2,000 people. So you need to either go to the location where you're going to be, find the site, find the shop, or find the rough area where you're going to be, or figure out how many people are going to be passing over through your area. If it's going to be a train station, you sit out the front there and count the people coming past. Or if you're going to be at a university, find out what the number of the people the student is going to be going to that university and what their times are and if that's going to be worth it for you. So you're going to find out the numbers now. This is the numbers part of it. Okay, good luck with this task. I've put actually a couple little notes on there and a bit of a checklist for you in the show notes, in the video notes, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, before we really get stuck into the course, you need to really think about what sort of a cafe or a coffee business you want. I'm not talking about whether it's a mobile van or a drive-through or a cafe, but you need to figure out what you're going to focus on. So pause the video if you have to, but you need to get yourself a white piece of paper and a pen or a texter and draw yourself a triangle. Okay? At each corner of that triangle, write the words good at one point, cheap at another point, and then fast at another point. Now imagine you can slide a little dot on that triangle, but staying on the line. That's your business. So you can move your business towards fast, and your coffee business is based just around convenience. You can move it towards cheap, and it's your 7-Eleven type business. And that's your $1 type coffee. Move in, get your cheap coffee, and out you go, you're filled up with fuel, that sort of thing. Or if you go up to quality, good, then it's a slow sit down, knives and forks, but you get the highest quality. So it's not cheap and it's not fast, but it's good quality. And you can slide down towards fast and good quality as well. So halfway between those 2 points, think like a drive-through coffee from like a barista-made drive-through type cafe. But you can't have all three. You can't put it right in the middle. It's got to stay on that line. If you try and do all three, try and do good, cheap and fast, you'll end up failing. And every business is like this. So define what sort of a business you want, good, cheap or fast. Now, I should add as well, if you want cheap, there's not much I can do for you to help because cheap quality in anything, it's just a race to the bottom and it's bound for failure. So stick with good quality and either fast or slow. And that's what you need to decide on, whether you want to be good quality, not focusing on fast, or good quality and fast like a drive-through. That's what you need to focus on, okay? Now that you know what you want, let's get stuck into the course. Today, we're going to make a list of all the cafes in your area. So the area you're thinking of starting up your cafe, we want to figure out who is your competition. And we're talking about direct and indirect competition. So we need to figure out all the restaurants and the eateries and the cafes in the area. So a cafe is a direct competition. An eatery or a restaurant is an indirect competition because chances are they're not going to be open at the same hours as what a cafe is. They might only be open for lunch and they're not going to be serving the same sort of things as you're serving. But that also means it's competition. Now, competition's not always a bad thing. It's not a good thing either. It's a thing. It can be bad, it can be good. And say there's a cafe called Bob's Cafe, and it's the only cafe in town. And over the road, a new cafe opens up. Now, Bob's Cafe is a good cafe. It serves good coffee, good food. And over the road, a new cafe opens up and serves pretty good coffee and good food as well. But it's a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit better, and it's a bit better laid out, and more people are going to go there. Now, this is only a bad thing if Bob's Cafe doesn't change. If Bob doesn't meet the changing requirements of his new circumstances, he's going to fail. And it's the same for you even starting up a new cafe. If you look in your area and there's 20 cafes in your little area, that's a good thing. It means the town is a coffee-loving town. So you've just got to find the gaps in the market and then be willing to change according to whatever the market requires. So make a list of all the cafes in your area, whether they're family orientated or tradie orientated or focused on elderly demographics, and just find out what the gap in the market is. And that's where you need to focus all your efforts. So you need to go through your whole town, even do a walk on the streets, or go for a bit of a Google walk or Street View, and make a list of all the cafes and restaurants and eateries, even RSLs and clubs that are going to be serving coffee and at the times that you're going to be open. Okay? Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Okay, now that you've found your gaps in the market, and hopefully there's quite a few, you need to figure out what you can become great at, or the best at. There's an ancient Greek philosopher called Achillicus, and he wrote a parable about a fox and a hedgehog. And he said that the fox knows many things and the hedgehog knows one thing very, very well. So the fox is a very cunning animal. It can do lots of little things kind of well, but the hedgehog knows one big thing. He curls up in a ball and spikes, and it's very hard to attack a hedgehog. Jim Collins expanded on this in his book Good to Great, and he put it more of a business spin on it, say become the best and do one thing and do it very, very well. And he called it the hedgehog concept. So this is what you need to do. You need to find the gaps in the market and figure out of those gaps, what can you become the best at? And some examples might be, say there's a gap in the family market and there's no cafes or restaurants in your area that open early that cater for families. You might be able to serve pancakes and waffles and ice cream. And you might be able to become the best in the town or in your area at doing that. Or say there's a gap in the market for tradies. You might be able to become the best for tradies and what they need, and they want meat pies and they want rolls and they want the best that you can provide for them. So of all the cafes and the restaurants that have gaps in the market in your area, figure out those at what you can become the best at. And you keep on improving better and better and better as you grow your cafe. But for now, you figure out what can you become great at? And also make a list of all the skills in that little area that you can become great at. You might even love gardening. And if you love gardening, you could focus on an elderly demographic and have a little market garden area at the front of your cafe. You might like arts and crafts, and you can have an art cafe focusing on, say, music. You might like a music cafe, if that's where your passion is, but you need to become the best at that. And if you can become the best at that, that's where you need to focus. Play to your strengths, okay? So make a list of the gaps in the market and pick which one of those you can become the best at. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Most businesses start off with a certain expectation about who they're going to be serving and how much they're going to make. And that's great if you've done your due diligence for your demographic. So you've done all your research and you think, this is the market that I'm going to be serving. It's going to be middle-aged people, it's going to be elderly, whatever that might be. You need to be prepared to change. There's a little bar down the road here that thought that they knew exactly who they were going to be serving. They thought they were going to be serving young couples and it was going to be cocktails and it was going to be great. What they found was middle-aged women were coming in and they wanted wine and cheese platters. So they changed. They offered the cheese platters, they changed their music, they changed the decor, and now they're very successful. There's two little supermarkets in tiny little towns nearby where I live. One of them changed and one of them didn't. The same thing happened to them within a few years. A big multinational opened up across the road. And the one that changed was very successful. They became a very locally focused, fast in and fast out convenience store. And the one that didn't change, they end up shutting down. You might have heard of a company called Starbucks. They didn't change in Australia. They didn't match the demographic and the kind of coffee that Australians wanted, and there's only a few stores left. They shut down about 60 stores and lost over $100 million in Australia. Be prepared to change. Be prepared to change every aspect of your business according to your demographic and what they want, okay? Be prepared to change yourself, your staff, your decor, everything. I'll see you in the next video. Grant Cardone said, whatever you think it's going to cost, times it by 10. What he actually said was, whatever you think it's going to cost, times it by 10. Now, I don't completely agree on the times 10. I think it's closer to times 3. But what he's saying is, if you think it's going to cost X amount, it'll be way more than that. Now, I think it's about times 3. So if you think a business is going to cost you 100 grand and you budget for that, it's probably going to cost you closer to 300 grand by the time it's all done, by the time you see some return on your investment. So return would be the cash flow. And this is why most businesses fail in the first few years. Have you ever heard that statistic that 90% of new businesses will fail in the first few years? It's going to vary from industry to industry or area to area, but it's a lot. It's a lot of startups are going to fail in the first few years. And that's because they don't get the turnover that they're thinking they're going to get in the first 12 months to 2 years. If you think about it, if you set up a cafe tomorrow, all your customers are already getting coffee from somewhere else today, and they're quite happy to do so. So you've either got to steal those customers from another competitor, or you're waiting for new customers, new people starting up coffee in your area. And either way, it's going to take some time, unless by chance a cafe closes across the road the day you start up. So you're going to take some time to get that cash flow. So you've got to budget your business according to what money you've got. But, is a big but, is a huge but. I'm not saying go out and get more money to scale up your business. So if you think a business is going to cost 100 grand, I'm not saying go out and get 300 grand so you can build your $100,000 cafe. What I'm saying is reduce the size of your business. So if you've got 100 grand, set up a $30,000 business. You probably won't be able to do a cafe, but you can do a roastery or a coffee cart or a van, but something small, and it will take you time to build that up. It'll cost you 60 and then 90 grand and probably close to 100 grand by the time you're done. You start seeing some return on investment. If you've got 300 grand, you build a $100,000 cafe. Okay? You need to scale down what you want to build according to the money that you've got times 3. All right? See how you go with that one? I'll see you in the next video. All right, so where do you start? Well, you start off by knowing the industry. If you're already working in a cafe, you've passed step 1. But if you're not, you've got to get a job in a cafe. You've got to learn coffee. Go out and do a course and get a job in a cafe, even if it's volunteering, but working there at least for a few days just to get a bit of an understanding for the industry. Step 2 is doing your research, doing everything I've covered in these last videos, making sure you know your demographic, your area, everything that I've got planned out in all these other videos. Step 3 is start off small as you possibly can. And step 4 is start today. There's something called temporal motivation, and it's simply this. The longer the time, the less you're motivated. And I don't want you to be one of those people that says, I was going to start a cafe, but that was years ago. Your action will give you motivation, and that will inspire you to take more action. It's a circle, it's a loop. Start taking action. Take action today. Do whatever you can to start off as small as you possibly can, selling coffee beans online or anything you can do, get a job, do some training, but start today. The longer you leave it, the less inspiration and motivation you'll have to take action. You will have a cafe, you'll have it one day. And when you do, send me a link to it. There's plenty of other resources on this website. There's other stuff to check out. There's some free stuff. Hey, I've even got a referral program for you. Send me a link when you do start up your cafe. I want to come and have a coffee there. Good luck. But I'm not paying for it.